Okay, great. We'll call the meeting to order. It's right at 7 o'clock. David, you want to do roll call?
Mary Ann Banks.
Here.
Natalie Drozda.
Here.
Andrew Grove. Here. Pat King. Here. Tom Langston. You see Tom.
Yeah. Here.
Amanda Ross.
Here.
Tom Sufchuk. Here. Mike Wallen. Here. Pat West. Here.
We have a full house. This is
Yep.
pretty good for a summer meeting. I think that's interesting. All right, we'll start with the meeting minutes from last time. They're behind your agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
But I had a question on item 8.
Your question before we move to make a change.
Yeah, I thought relating to the discussion of the recommendations to the manager and the commissioners on the forest management plan, which we included the 26,238, which was in the capital budget. I thought there was additional discussion at the last meeting where the manager seemed to be soliciting ideas on additional funding, and I thought we talked about another $5,000 for sort of low cost tree purchases, et cetera.
I think that's in this, it's, if you
Is
look at
that-
the last phrase, and additional tree procurement funding, I think they just didn't put a dollar value.
Okay.
Yeah, because Phil said that that was a scalable item and then it could, the amount could range, Tom.
Okay.
So it's on there.
As long as it's expected, it's
Yeah.
all right.
Typed into the budget about 45 minutes ago. So
There you
that's
go.
amazing
Okay, great.
for consideration.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, any other issues, and we'll have a motion to approve the minutes. Go ahead, again,
So moved.
a second. A second, they're all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. We will move on to citizens' comments. I think we have a few citizens today. The rules for this are that every citizen gets, I think, 5 minutes to
Sure.
speak on whatever topic they so choose. And then it goes to the next person, basically.
Yeah, they should state their name and address for the
Yes, thank
record.
you. Yeah, so do we want to start with in-person people and then move to online? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can't tell who all is behind me.
Where did we go?
You go up to the podium right there. First, yeah, whoever would like to go. So, yeah, you need your name and address for the record, and then you're welcome to speak for 5 minutes.
So Denise Hallburton, I live at 1503 Mohican Drive, 15228. So I just wanted to thank you all for your service to our community, first of all. And then second of all, I have 2 different issues related to the pool that I just wanted to bring up. The first issue has been a more recent issue, which is the use of the lap lanes. As you guys probably know, the lap lanes take up during normal swim times, about 1/3 of the pool. They're blocked off. Typically, traditionally, teaching has been permitted by individuals in the community or young people working with other people to learn to swim. In the past week, this has not been permitted. Young people have been removed from the lap lanes and threatened to be not permitted back into the pool if they keep using the lap lanes for teaching. Importantly, I think this is during a time when no one else is using the lap lanes. There's been no line, no waiting, there's been open lanes despite these young people doing learn to swim lessons there. So I think the other important thing to point out about this is that we have a significant need for learn to swim lessons in our community. Our local nonprofit, Mount Lebanon Aqua Club, has a waiting list for learn to swim. We can't accommodate within our community all the individuals that need to learn to swim. So these people who are providing these lessons during these times are really doing a community service. And sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not. But they've not been permitted to continue to do that. In fact, today I was at the pool with three of my young kids who wanted to race and swim in the lap lane. Within about 20 seconds, someone came up to me and told me that my kids probably needed to move, that it looked like they were playing, despite them continuously swimming laps. So that's one issue that I wanted to bring up with this group, hopefully to address. The second thing I think is management of the pool. There are a number of reasons that I'm wanting to mention this. One is simply the number of days that the pool has been closed this year. I saw the information that came out, indicating why the issue with the pump and filters and all these sorts of things. But my question about that is if we have one individual who caused this near catastrophic failure of our pump system, where was the supervision for that individual? Were they qualified to be able to do that? That's something that I have a question about after reading the information that came out recently on the website about the pool closures. The other thing is that I know last year we had a number of drownings or near drownings. I'm not sure if that's been something that's continued this year, but it harks back to issues with management of the pool. The next thing I know is that last year we had an individual that worked at the pool that had to go to the emergency room because of exposure to chemicals, and chemical levels have been an issue this summer as well. So that's another thing that makes me question management of the pool. The last issue, thinking about management, is that our Mount Lebanon Aqua Club, I know, has had to seek other pools this summer for groups of their swimmers to be able to continue swimming. They haven't had the same access that they traditionally have had to our community pool. That again makes me question what's going on with the management of the pool. So I think these issues and the issues related to the ice rink fiasco last fall really should have us pause and question if this is the direction that our community wants to go, and if we're best serving our community with the management that we currently have in place, or if we as a community really need to look at and figure out what we want to do to address some of these issues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody else behind? Again, my back's to you. I apologize. I can't see where it's back there.
Hi, my name is Susie Haraus, and I live at 341 Cedar Boulevard, very close to the parks and the recreation that we have in Mount Lebanon. I was a pool manager there for many years, and I'm coming to you from a different point, a different perspective, because I did manage the pool from 2014 to 2020, and COVID had closed. That was closed for COVID, but I did return in 2021 off and on. And my concern with that filtration, it's been an ongoing problem for a very long time. The pit is roughly 12 by 12 by 10, maybe 15 by 12 by 10. Have any of you seen it? Well, I know you have, but have any of you seen the filter pit? No. Okay, so it's down below and there's no easy access to that pit. And we're asking these young kids to climb into this pit, spray down these DE filters. Their screens almost the size like that DE board, that white board over there. Spray all the DE off it and it gets a sump pump and it's set into a settling tank. And once that's done, they need to climb out. I would, it's not an easy task to climb out of this pit. It might be for Mr. Don Allen because he rock climbs, but most kids aren't fit like that. And it's hard to get out of this pit and it's not safe. I think that the lack of supervision in that room with the amount of chemicals and the hazardous materials that's in that room, there's not even a label on the door on the outside that tells you what's stored in that room. It's concerning that these things aren't addressed, and they should be addressed. There's absolutely no reason that these can't be addressed. My other concern touches on what Denise said about the lap lanes. There are currently 8 lap lanes. It was doubled in 2018 to accommodate teachers and the lap swimmers. If you're going to throw the teachers out of the lap lanes to accommodate the adult swimmers, you need to reduce the footprint of the lap lanes to therefore increase the amount of pool space available to all. By locking off almost a third to a half of the pool, because the slide takes up quite a bit, it's an issue. And before you institute a new policy, it should be communicated to all. I think you all saw the county that sent out that regulation. Effective July 16th, you must be supervised by an adult. Did you see that? It went out and it was available to most. If you're gonna start a new policy, it needs to be communicated. You just don't whip it off the top of your hat and say, we're doing this right now. It's not fair to anybody, and that's not how Mount Lebanon operates. Let's see, what else did I want to touch on? Oh, there was an incident at the pool, and I'll be brief about this, that was rather shocking. Well, there's two things to me about the female swimsuits. Several females had come to me and asked me if that, what I thought. I said, what I think doesn't matter. It happened to you, not to me. They were asked to parade around the assistant director in their swimsuit to make sure their suits fit them appropriately. Not all of the female guards, just some of them. As a mother of young girls, I find that creepy. If the Parks and Rec department is buying the swimsuit and they don't feel it offers enough coverage, what's the solution? Buy a different swimsuit, buy a pair of shorts. But I think it's wholly inappropriate to ask these young girls to parade around to be checked out to make sure the suits cover them.
That's lifeguards, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, lifeguards. And then, my last thing I had was because of all the problems we had with the pool this summer. Have you guys discussed a refund policy for the pass holders? Now, the people who pay daily get a rain check, so they can come back another time. But the people who have passes, they've lost that. I don't know, is there a policy for the refund for that? It hasn't been posted. It talked about it in what Denise had mentioned, but nothing has come out yet. Do you know anything about that? Do you know anything about that?
This is public comment. It's not question and answer.
Okay, government answer. The other thing I wanted to point out, the slide at the pool and the rock wall at the pool are considered an amusement attraction. And neither has been inspected by the state. Neither has had a permit from the state. And there are daily things that need to be done to these attractions. 15-year-olds are not allowed to operate an amusement ride in the state of Pennsylvania. That's another thing that's been
Pardon me,
overlooked.
the 5 minutes are up.
Yeah, it was about 7:08, 7:09.
Thank you very much. I hope
Okay.
we can get some of this corrected.
Thank you.
Ask a question.
Let's table of questions until all, there's more, quite a few more
Okay.
people to speak. So is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak? If not, we have some people online.
Gotcha. Thanks. Ask them to raise their hand if they have a question.
Art Thomas here, if you want to click to raise your hand, just to make sure that you are here for public comment.
I mean, anyone who has a public comment can raise their hand and we'll call on you.
And come up next to their name, or how do we know? They,
There's a hand, raise your hand feature.
in the middle of your screen at the bottom, it should say raise your hand. So if you'd like to speak today and get your 5 minutes, you can click that button and we will open up your microphone. It does not appear anyone is raising their hand. Another minute, and then we're gonna have to move forward. Anyone else that's here just to listen, or if you'd like to speak again, raise your hand. We're gonna give you about another minute. If we don't see anyone, we're gonna keep moving with the meeting. Does not appear like anyone is raising their hands. Right, I guess we're gonna assume that you're here to listen. So what happens now is we will continue on with the meeting, and if we want to bring this up under new business, mostly the topic of the poll, we can do that at that point, but let's get through the rest of the people give their reports before we have any further discussion about it. Next up on the agenda is the chairperson's report. I don't have anything to report. Next is the commission's liaison report. Mr. Grell is not here this evening. He did not leave a report with anyone.
He did not.
Okay. Next up, the staff liaison reports.
I'll jump on here first. You guys all have this in your packet like every month. Some of the big things just to touch on, we went through the proofs with Sign Pro, and that was the first phase of IDing our parks and fields. So those have all been released to be manufactured. Public Works guys, once again, will install those as we receive them. So no big changes. We swapped from poles to fence mount at North Meadowcroft, made more sense. Couple of small changes from single pole to double, where we had some landscape issues where we wanted to mount it. We did get the prototype. I don't know if anyone's seen it up at Middlefield. The backside of it, it says Main Park. So anyone actually playing in the game is looking up at that sign going, why is Main Park? So there might be a little confused, but it looks good. The size is what we wanted. So we released all of them to be manufactured. Operating budget started, just got through the first pass of the text this evening. Added the things that we talked about last meeting. So there's decision units for consideration on a next phase of signage, which will include amenities, wayfinding, secondary entrances to some of our bigger parks that warrant that second sign somewhere else. You know, Bird, Twin Hills, they all have big trailheads, multiple locations. So this next swipe at the signage will involve that. And that includes professional services as well. So we'd be looking to speak with Colano again, kind of reopen that template of our sign package, go through that and make sure that, you know, if we go to blades on stuff or things like that, that everything jives and looks the same. So we're not just gonna take this on and make these signs up ourselves and go from there. They had great value in working with them. So we'll continue on there. Over at Parks, over at Clearview, threw in a bottle station and bubbler combo over there. It's been well received. Also added in the budget for consideration to make that a standard and replace all park fountains with this unit. The installation went very well. Very few things to break, go wrong on them, which we always like. So we'll continue with that as a decision unit later on as well. And that would cover Seymour Field by the cages, Middle Field by the backstop, 2 in Bird Park, and 2 in Main Park up by the courts, and then 1 over by the playground. My first pick would be by the courts, just for what it's worth. A lot of bottles up there. It's probably the bulk of our recycling pickup when we do parks trash. So I'm hoping that can curve some trends and bring more, you know, bottles out, reusable ones. So over at all the parks that have equipment, you'll see that all the wood fiber, the safety surface underneath has been refreshed, brought back up to the levels it needs to be for that specific equipment. Had a little incident, had to replace a restroom unit down in Bird Park that suffered some firework damage. We did a police report. It's down in the middle of nowhere. You know, there's always eyes on it, but it's a tough spot for us just to keep you up to date on some of the stuff that goes wrong as well. Trim some nice branches off, real substantial limbs off sycamore that's over top of the play equipment. We look at that weekly, we take calls on it, so that stuff goes to a high priority. More poison ivy treatments along Bird Park Beadling Lot. A lot of the main trailheads that get you to Main Park to see fireworks, those were done before, specifically off like Parker Drain, and the path behind Seymour third base dugout that comes up. Those poison ivy's wicked this year for whatever reason. Also finishing up maps for this year's invasive treatments. What that is that's a service level that we mark as scalable. Manager, commission decide, you know, how much funding goes in there. We've received substantial funding last couple of years, so we stay on treating different patches of knotweed, stilt grass, conservancy. They kind of give me some eyes and ears out there too. We work pretty well together in that. So that will be ready to go get competitive pricing for that. Over at Dixon, just some usual maintenance for this time of year, filling in low spots, edging the arc, flushing out all that top dressing and stuff that makes its way over there, so we don't get any bad hops and black eyes coming out of a game. We don't want that. Some additional recycling cans you'll see added through Main Park down by the fields, up in the playground areas, just seeing a higher volume, which is great. That means more people are getting out. Overhead door down at the concession stand was still under warranty. We had one of the openers fail. They took care of that. That's covered under our 1-year manufacturer, so all good down there. Couple odds and ends things, you know, some maintenance down at the synthetic field, faucet replaced over at concession stand. I apologize to anyone that had to wait in line because there was one down. Over at Bird, had some irrigation heads that were giving us some problems, ended up being these zone timers. They're not fun to work on, but we got 2 of them going back in there this week. And our guys are continuing kind of as time allows here to construct the new seating for Middle and Dixon over at the shop. Then we haul it over. It seems to be the most efficient way to do it rather than looking for nuts and bolts in the grass, which we tried the first time and it didn't go well. So at least we learned and do things a little different. So that there'll be a decision unit in budget for manager's consideration to wrap up this fall compliant seating over at Seymour. We have one section along the first baseline, pretty tight back there. And then the larger grandstand will replace those 6 sets that are kind of pushed together and you hope no one pinches fingers. So, and both of those assets will stay when looking at Main Park master plan and the way stuff sits now. So we're not buying things that will go bye-bye, you know, when bigger projects arise. So anything we're doing now, we're kind of thinking and anticipating that larger turf replacement, lights, that whole grand scheme. So we're not kind of going backwards as we do this. So we do have some thought, you know, into the future while still knowing that these things need to be done because you guys are out there. So that is it for now. Please call, email, smoke signal, whatever you want to do. You see something, let me know. Everybody has my email. So,
David, did you have a report?
Yeah, I'll give a brief report. We had a very nice July 4th celebration in the park a couple weeks ago. Managed to get almost everything in, cut the concert just a little short, but due to rain, and the rain let up and we did fireworks right on schedule at 9:30. It was a very nice show and a very nice turnout for the event. We hosted the fall field scheduling meeting on July 10. We're about to finalize those schedules and distribute them to the youth sports associations, making our final edits there. Tennis courts 5 and 6 are still under construction. We hope to complete that project end of this month, mid next month, perhaps. And we're also doing our planning for our first indoor tennis season in the bubbles. So we'll have more to report on that later. Obviously, we are struggling with pool water quality clarity issues. This is pretty widely known. We are working on the problem and doing our best to address it. There was an extensive, frequently asked questions edition of our MTL Rec News sent out on July 10. which covered, most of the questions, if not all the questions that I have heard regarding the closures. This is, there are a lot of variables. We can't say with certainty, what is different or everything that was wrong or is wrong, but the common denominator here is that we have a undersized filtration system for our bather load. This has been since the pool was renovated in 2014. It just so happens that this is the worst year for cloudy water and inability to keep the pool open. I will be updating the commission on this as I have been. There'll be during discussion session on July 23rd, about 7:15 PM. I'll be giving them an update and we will keep the public updated as well.
And I think at that time, for the people who spoke this evening, if they came in with questions, some of those questions might be answered during that time, because a lot of those things have to be decided by the commission. So those are all public meetings. You're welcome to listen to that.
Are they available online as well, like you are? And can you zoom into those?
Yeah, you can zoom in. There's no public comment during commission discussion sessions, but you can certainly view them. And there are public comments at the open commission meeting immediately following at 8 PM.
Okay, moving on to the subcommittee reports. Our first official board structure subcommittee is pickleball. So does that committee want to provide a report on the update on what they've been doing?
Right after you guys jump in here.
Sure, we will.
Okay, so Matt, Marianne and I met, I guess, a week ago this past Sunday, and reconnoitered the scene, and they've been visiting more than I have subsequent thereto and talking with folks. So it's just some general observations, and please jump in here if I overgeneralize. Certainly when we were there, which was a pleasant Sunday evening about 8 o'clock, pickleball courts is heavily utilized by a diverse age group. I was surprised to see the number of older folks and teenagers and everybody in between. Diverse usage on all scores, which was great. And in general, the users seem to be well-behaved and self-regulating. I don't know if there's a pickleball club or association or somebody set up maybe the rec department did, set up the mechanism of hanging up your paddles and, organizing who gets to use the courts next. So other than the potential noise intrinsic, due to the fact that there are lots of folks there, folks seem to be behaving themselves, in general. Pickleball is inherently noisy, so the complaints and concerns by the one resident we've heard from several times, and others, they're in good company nationally. I was surprised we looked into it just and then did a fairly brief, sort of web search on pickleball noise issues, and it's real, it's widespread, it's a common concern. So that was noteworthy. It's something that folks have seen a need to address nationally, not just in our little piece of the world. Pickleball's noisier than tennis, producing noise levels around 8 to 70 decibels at 100 feet. And the different sources on the line sort of varied, but it is noisier than tennis, certainly, inherently due to the nature of the rackets and the balls. And I'll leave it at that because it's beyond my expertise, certainly. And the noises are at a frequency range that can be bothersome to people, of 1,000 to 2,000 hertz. And that's sort of the same frequency, although not the same kind of sound, obviously. It's like the OSHA backup noises on, trucks use, etc. So it's, and also there's a rapid fire cadence, from the playing. So there's no break in it. And
Yeah, one of the things, I went over on a Sunday afternoon and there were two single games going on, and then a game with four people. I don't know what you call it. I'm not a single player. But I talked to two gentlemen that are in a league in Pittsburgh, and they were really, really nice. And we had a long talk about, you know, who uses the courts, all that kind of thing. And one of the things they told me about Mount Lebanon courts, I think in Pittsburgh, you can get a pickleball court for an hour. Here, you play a game to 11, and that's what the rackets are for. You play your game, you win or, you lose, you come out, you put your, and just kind of go around. And they said the great thing about that is they get to play a lot of different people at a lot of different skill levels. They get to know people. And it seemed like, I don't know if it's self-regulated or whatever it is, but it seemed like people got along, and they really, the people really value the course. And the interesting thing, I talked to them about the idea of playing till, shutting off at 9. They seem to say, said, after 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, the people that are here are like what we have now. So they had half the courts utilized, that sort of thing. And I said, what would you feel if, it was cut back to 9? They said, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that at all. And I think they're cognizant of the neighbors, of the noise and all that, and they try and be good neighbors, and, they enjoy the court. And so it was very interesting. I have some other comments on because I went by last week or a few days ago, and there had to be 40 people there. It was jammed. And that brings up a whole nother issue, I think, too. I know last time someone talked about there was a need for shelter and, place to wait, and I can see that. And I know because it's so heavily used where the ramps are, there's a lot of erosion. And actually, if you look on the court, you can see where the dirt is starting, from the bare earth going onto the court. So I think the popularity isn't going to go down, and that just seems like a popular place. So I think that issue is definitely something to talk about in the future. But personally, I think I would highly recommend that we look at recommending the 9 o'clock shutdown time. I
And
think
you
that,
think of that like straight across the board, like not varied by night, like day of the week, season, any of that, just straight 9 o'clock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other thing we talked about too was the playing of radios and all that. Music. And maybe by, they talked about 7 o'clock, or maybe that could shut down earlier or not have it at all. I think.
Well, the rule, I believe the posted rule is that they're not supposed to have it at all. Isn't that on the rule?
I think we discussed that I don't think anybody wants to listen to somebody else's music
Yeah.
while they're playing, and that we would just add that rule once we updated the signage, when we,
Yeah.
if additional changes were made or not, once this is decided, we could update the sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to some of the people there as well. And I talked to a woman that lived on McCully, and which is, it's, I guess it's off of North Meadowcroft. And I said, what do you hear? Because, where you are in proximity to the courts is really gonna make a difference as to how loud that noise is. And I believe that the one person that calls in is directly across the street, which, obviously it is the noises as we stood there. This woman on McCully said, what, it's very faint, you can barely hear it. And it could be that there's buildings kind of in front, so, and she's on the opposite side of the street. But it's definitely something to be considered for those residents right there.
And speaking to the noise mitigation, again, we did a very superficial, but hopefully useful look at some of the noise mitigation technologies and options and such that are out there. And again, it varies from source to source that you look at, but there seems to be sort of an ideal standard of a 500-foot minimum. If you're building a new pickleball court in some place where there's actually land, which of course you don't have, 500 foot sort of the design standard, and it's about 100 feet
500 feet from
from
the court to like
from
the
court
next
to the
closest
nearest
building.
residence.
Yeah.
That's the whole city block.
Yeah, that takes us almost to, McFarland or whatever. So, I mean, that's not relevant other than as a,
And that's probably to silence, where like half that would
Yes.
be
Yeah, that's.
muted enough, it doesn't bother you.
the sound goes down at like the square root of the distance or something, but so it's a goodly distance. The, right across the street is about 100 feet and some change, just going from eyeballing it in Google Maps. So again, it's they're close. Closer than ideal, but we don't have, it is what it is now. There's also, and then again, we were estimating very roughly 20 to 25 feet, maybe elevation difference between the first ground floor of the apartments across the street and where the actual court level, so you get kind of a bowl effect that, the sound bounces up out of. And also that elevation difference poses challenges to sound attenuation technologies, because you'd have to build something, way up in the air to address it. Again, we're non-expertise opinions.
Would a planted buffer help in any way? Is there enough room for that?
Yeah, short answer is yes, and again, I'm certainly not presuming expertise, certainly on my part, but plantings of shrubs or, trees are less effective than like purposely built sound attenuation fencing and such, probably. And obviously they grow more slowly, so it would be a longer term solution, but certainly something that could be implemented at some scale. There are techno fixes available against, I don't know, site specific, it would work in terms of acoustic fencing and barriers and other things that are out there. One of the things so let me cut to the recommendations, and again, please jump in here if I misspeak or overstate. As Pat suggested, I think the subcommittee is recommending a 9 o'clock limit on the operation of the pickleball courts, just to give an hour's quiet at least. Ban the use of amplified music on courts. So I don't know how big of a problem that is, obviously. If it occurs, it would be annoying, but it's not like folks are out there with giant amplifiers all the time blasting music. And also there's a firm, and this is certainly not a recommendation, but just a firm that currently there's a retired CMU engineering professor who started a firm called Pickleball Sound Mitigation Incorporated and saw an opportunity. And this is like, it sounds like a 3 or 4 man shop. But and he has some South Hills connections, and I think they have a lab someplace in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. And I think we'd like to recommend that the municipality consider asking maybe through Gateway to check out what the technical and engineering solutions might be, not with a big pricey study, but just, a quick look, what's out there, what might be feasible, and would it be worthwhile to talk to the folks from Pickleball Sound Mitigation, to get a sense of what might be doable at this site. That firm's website did indicate that for a modest fee, and obviously that's to be determined, they could do a site assessment and take a look at, see what might be doable, if anything, without building the Berlin Wall of pickleballdom out there. That's it basically. So again, let's shut it down at 9. See what techno fixes there might be available with a quick look, and ban amplified music.
I think the comments we've heard from residents that at this point, at least, they'd be satisfied with that 9 o'clock. I don't know that they're asking for anything more than that really. And I think that'd be a big step to address the issue.
And to have it clearly marked, some type of signage, it's really important.
I think also that there, to answer your question from earlier, there is, not that I know of, a pickleball association in Mount Lebanon. There may be some more broader area ones, but Mount Lebanon, there's no Mount Lebanon Pickleball Association that I know of.
There's a Facebook group, but I'm not aware of a formal association.
Yeah, so, there's not a group to really kind of, an organized group to kind of say, no, we don't want to close at 9. But it seems like just anecdotally, the people we've talked to don't really have an issue
The
with.
two guys that came the last meeting, they seem to be.
They seem to be fine
amenable
with
with
it
that.
and the people, so I mean, we don't have, any true like data, but it doesn't seem like anyone is.
Really, as soon as we change it to 9, they'll.
Then we may,
Think about that.
and we'll have a whole room of people saying they want it to go back to 10, but the only other comment I would like kind of on the record is that as the racket center becomes the true sort of racket center and the kind of things they're doing and future planning they're doing, if they were to turn any of the current tennis courts into pickleball courts, you probably want to pick the ones that are the furthest away from people's homes. So I think we've learned something here, putting these in and what the complaints and issues have been. So I think we just need to make sure that we continue to use that knowledge if we were to develop any other pickleball courts, which is in high demand. If there's people, 40 people deep waiting, I'm sure people would appreciate more courts. So just we need to not forget these issues when we go to do that planning.
Just, again, just eyeballing it from, the measure distance thing on Google Maps, that from sort of the center of the whole tennis complex, it's about 450 feet, maybe 450 feet or so to the nearest residence. It's not it's just sort of an odd shape. But your point's very well taken, Amanda. Certainly it's more distance than.
Sure.
I think the other thing that came up was the issue of shading. When I've driven by, I see people have put temporary umbrellas up. We don't have shading at other courts and play in the summertime. It's sunny. I don't think we have to concern ourselves with that.
Well, the only thing I'd say about that, and I hear what you're saying, but tennis is a little different.
I'm sorry.
You don't have the people sitting there waiting. I was shocked by how many people were there. Maybe I was, invite you to drive by there. So
I've been by it.
it's rather amazing.
It's well attended, there's no question.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be charging a fee for the courts. That's another.
Say for the shading. I think his point is that like for tennis and other things, you kind of go play and then you leave. This is kind of the thing where you play, you stay, you play, you stay. You're there. You're gonna get some.
When I did team tennis, I mean, you were sitting around.
But don't they have, well, paddle has a building now. Tennis has a place to kind of go and find shade.
Well, and also if you're playing to an end of a game versus playing for a set amount of time, another reason to put stick around after your time.
Right,
Yeah, it's not scheduled.
right.
Couple quick comments. I do think the point about maybe not going until 9 o'clock on, all 7 days, maybe only 5 days a week, might, Sunday through Thursday, might be, might warrant some consideration. Also, any of you here know Chuck Vietmeyer? Chuck's Mr. Pickleball in Mount Lebanon, Pittsburgh area. He lives on Jefferson. Might be worth getting his opinion. Someone was asking if there's an association. There may not be a formal association, but he's the guy, Chuck Vietmeyer, Viet. MEIR. David, you know him, right?
I do. Tom, I can put you in touch with him and he'd be happy to talk.
I'm gonna get some perspective, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He
He's
can answer a lot of,
got a lot of
been
knowledge.
around the nation,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's it.
He's also one of our tennis pros. He's a wealth of information.
And at the last meeting, the couple of individuals spoke, they said that they were willing to help self-fund some of the improvements there as well.
Can't remember.
I think they were willing to like put up.
I think they were offering to almost do it
And
themselves.
we could
or-
have said that that's not something they can do, but.
Even if they funded it, so an option.
I mean, it's something I think that we would wanna, plan as part of a bigger project, or consider as part of a bigger project rather than just ad hoc adding shade somewhere.
That bigger project is out there, so I mean, it could be incorporated, the things we're hearing into that. There's a North Meadowcroft Phase 3 which is obviously the basketball that's untouched up there with the, the poor fencing and older style hoops and boards and all that, so, could work something in, to add alternates in for, look at the site again, because the plan we have now was before any of this feedback for that third phase, so, not too late to go back to the drawing board, I would think, so.
Um,
I
I,
record tie in with, the Gateway or whomever could add that to their pondering.
so I think the recommendations are great to hear. I would recommend that we talk to the person that Patrick recommended before the next meeting and then the next, and just to make sure that those recommendations wouldn't change, alter at all. And then after that meeting, we can make the final recommendation to the commissioners. Does anybody want to feel like that's okay, or do you feel like we need to do it now?
Recommendation we talked about, just that.
Well, hit the
Stop
three,
time?
I believe the three things he said were 9 o'clock
Right.
stop time. No music, and to talk to the company, that the noise mitigation company, have
I
someone.
don't understand what a pickleball expert would have to say about the stop time. I think we've talked about this for the last 3 meetings, and I don't know why we can't just make a decision.
And that's
Recommendation.
something we can do if someone wants to move and vote, if somebody feels like he may have a better handle on if how upset people are gonna be if we move the time back to 9. Or, and he may agree and say no one will care, it's fine, or he may disagree and say there will be an up.
I'm not sure what ACC would have to know if people are gonna be pissed off or anything.
Well, I think it's because
He's
he's
very
part,
well
he's very
connected.
connected into the
Well,
community,
he's
knows a lot of.
No,
people.
he's very well connected in pickleball specifically
Yeah,
in Mount Lebanon and in Pittsburgh and in the nation.
I don't know what connection has to do with
he
the
would-
stop time.
He would give some good perspective.
I think the concern for some of us is, especially myself and Tom, who were here for listening to people beg for pickleball courts for 2 years. I think our concern is if we move the time back, we have not heard from anyone from the pickleball community, other than, again, anecdotally. We're concerned that there could be kind of a big group of people saying,
Representatives came to our meeting and they spoke about it.
again, anecdotally, we have heard not that that should not be an issue. All I'm saying is, do we want to listen to one more person that has a really true, a better understanding of the community? If there will be any issues. We can also make the recommendations tonight. If someone wants to move and second, we can take a vote, whether we do it tonight or we delay it until the next meeting.
I would add that I think it's critically important to, to engage them. I think it'd be positive to have their positive feedback and to be a part of the solution if they're going to enforce it. And I think it would be wise to consider that as a big part if he's as connected and as well represented, if we are able to use him as a resource. I think it helps the community, helps the pickleball players, it helps everybody, as opposed to making a decision and not communicating in advance.
And he may have some insights on the sound mitigation as well, if he's connected into the community. Again, it's not a local problem. He may have something to add to that recommendation, and that would just allow us to make one set of recommendations that is complete and full and well considered. But again, anyone is welcome to make a motion to make those recommendations from the committee tonight, and we can vote on it. Or we can wait until next week.
David, you've got the experience. I mean, our vote goes to you to take to the commission for recommendation. So would you rather have an organized, this is the documentation, this is who's been involved in the feedback, and this is a comprehensive, what do you think is the most effective way of addressing all of the issues?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna defer to the pickleball committee. They've only had 30 days to consider this. I think that talking to Chuck is a good idea. He's also the guy that started the Facebook group, so he's monitoring and looking at those comments all the time as well. He is a very good resource. Whether he could or couldn't add, to the discussion, I can't say, but I don't think it would hurt, to hear from him. And we did have some comments on the other side too, that were in favor of leaving it open later. There's points on both sides.
Is there any other, does anyone else have any recommendations on other things that the subcommittee do before the next meeting, other than talking to him? Is there any other action they would like the subcommittee to take? Well, then I'm gonna recommend that they do that unless we hear a motion to approve their recommendations tonight. Okay, and the next meeting, the nice thing about this new committee is that our board is that we are meeting monthly all year round. So unlike the other took the kind of the summer off. It will just be in 30 days, we'll be able to complete the study and make our final recommendations to the commission. So. Okay, we'll move on to old business, the field census study update. As I mentioned last time, we put the study on the share drive, so everybody can take a look at that. I have to say, after the field meeting this fall, that David mentioned that took place, everybody's very congenial and everybody works well in terms of sharing and talking and working through, and it was actually pretty quick. The share was less than an hour, because we start kind of with where we were the previous year. But I will say that I think 75% of the people that left the meeting felt like they didn't get enough space. I know the own group I was representing feels that way, and I know at least 2 or 3 other ones who feel that way. So I think it just reminded me the importance of kind of continuing on this project. So I don't know if people have had the chance to look at the study, but I'd like to say, let's have everybody look at that over the next month. And perhaps we can do kind of a little Q&A next time if anybody has any comments. We don't really have the time during this meeting to go over the whole thing. But we can certainly discuss it and have any questions answered about it. And the main recommendation coming out of it, the really truly the only solution to increase capacity in the fields, the study shows that there's a shortage. So the only way to add field space is to develop McNeely Park. That's sort of the big ticket. It's the most expensive, but also most beneficial project. And this was presented to the commission, so they do know about it. I guess the next steps, and they kind of talked about this in the discussion meeting when we presented it. The next steps were to kind of get Gateway Engineering back to kind of look at the bids and stuff they used back in, I think it was 2008, to kind of try to update some of those numbers. Is there anything we need to include as your budget planning to try to get that particular project into the next phase?
Like to develop fields in McNeely?
Yeah, we'll just develop the park, period.
I don't think it's even in the CIP anymore, is it?
No, the last thing in the CIP for McNeely was sort of along the same lines. If you know something bigger is coming, but you also know that you can't get into the darn place. So
Right.
the first one was a general road in that could be used later on, perhaps.
Mhm.
Some level parking, and to establish some more or less deer trails that are a pretty nice loop that you could walk.
And I
knowing
think there
that
was
there
a
might be a
grant
future.
application that we
There
did
was.
not get,
Yes,
that
we
kind
did
of
not
took
get
care of
that
that. And then what I recall from the commissioners' discussion meeting was that they kind of said there's money to be had at the state level for this project, but they don't want to see like a 3-phase project. They want to see like a full-fledged, this is what we want to do, and this is what it's going to cost, and this is where, and here's how the different places we're going to get the money. They did not want to like piecemeal it. So with that said, it's kind of nowhere now, and we need to put it somewhere.
I don't know, Phil may remember, but I think we should go back and look at the Parks Master Plan and see what recommendations it had for McNeely. I mean, and then try to build on those. I'm sure it must at least acknowledge that there was a plan for sports fields, and then maybe there's some additional information there to
Okay.
give us some direction. I'm just drawing a blank on that park, and other than the develop the trails and access, just to use that property for something. Because it has sat, unused for 20-ish years, yep.
Is the McNeely the most, like you gain the most fields if you develop them, period, or is a partnership with the school district give you more fields? Like,
No,
'cause there was talks
we're
with the
talking,
state.
the field study includes all the fields owned by the municipality and the school district. So the field study does not distinguish between who owns the field. It's all the fields available for use in the community. community.
Is there still extremely limited access to like the stadium and the other turf field?
The stadium, it's still very expensive and people tend not to use it this fall. For whatever reason, the stadium and especially on Saturdays is booked solid, like youth football, tackle football, who has 4 teams of kids playing every Saturday. And then probably 100+ youth cheerleaders that would be cheering at those games. Has, I think, 2 weekends out of 6 that they were able to get any field time at the stadium. So they're the ones who have gotten really crunched out of that. There's 2 band festivals this year. So that's 2 nights that neither the upper practice field nor the stadium are being able to be used. That kind of, there used to only just be one, now that's a second Saturday that nobody can be up there. So in the fall, the stadium is used a little bit more. In the spring, it's more open. So this year in particular, like I used to for flag football get 4-ish hours every Saturday at that field. I'm lucky to get 2, and I'm only getting 5 weekends out of 8 period.
Because of school use?
School use. Yeah, so the high school, it's their field, it's their field, high school sports and middle school sports take preference. Which everybody understands, but it's shrinking. Their programs are getting bigger. And so it's shrinking the youth access to it. So McNeely is the only place in Mount Lebanon to build more fields. Like you can light things, you can turf things, but you can't get actual more fields unless that's the only place really left to develop. And the drawing that they used back in 2008, one of the sample drawings had like a full diamond field and 2 to 3 rectangular fields and a dog park and walking trails. So there's space there. It's quite a large area. Not easy to develop necessarily, but the acreage is there to do it.
So that's been looked at since '08.
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe the drawings that we put in our report, you'll see it in the study. I think they were from 2004 or 2008. 8 is in my head for some reason.
It's been a long time, like essentially the entire time I've been here.
Was it ever used for anything? Not really.
It might have been acquired, for. And then there were
I think they
plans
bought it
shortly.
from the neighboring, what is that castle? Shannon. I think they acquired it from them, but then it's just kind of sat and never been fully developed. And again, it's the most expensive solution, but it adds the most capacity.
I think Gateway's calculation of the, cut and fill and the land grading costs were prohibitive at the time.
Well, they're gonna be more prohibitive now, 20 years later,
Yeah.
so.
The big challenge was water mitigation. I guess that was the biggest.
So there's an open stream through there at the moment. I think where some of those fields ended up being plotted or the infrastructure around them, storage buildings, restrooms, stuff that comes with it.
And it's a long-term project, obviously, and an expensive project, but I think I would like to see it at least start moving in a forward direction again. And the commission at the discussion meeting, when we went over the report, seemed open to that. And they seemed to understand that was sort of the best option for a larger change. There's a lot of other recommendations that are for smaller changes, but so let's say for next month, everybody take a look at that report. We can answer questions, and then David, if you can look at the Parks Master Plan and see what we know about McNeely and what we need to do to add. Do we need a project? Do we need a subcommittee? Do we need what have you? And I may reach out to Craig and see if he has any input. Since he's not here this evening, he may have some
David,
insight
I'm
to
pretty
kind of
confident
next
that
steps.
when we talked, I'm pretty confident there was an exploration around putting roads in, putting roads into gravel parking lot and just doing basic. That was maybe 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, that's the trails, access and trails. So small parking area, a few trails.
And again, in some ways, I think if that was available to people in the community, I think, and myself included, no one knows really like, where is it? What is it? But if you get people there walking around and realizing that this is an asset our community has, the sort of not fight, but the charge to develop it would be made easier if people really knew it was there, I think.
Do you know if it was acquired for the purpose of putting fields in, or what was anyone know?
It was a land
That
grab.
was the
Yeah.
idea.
It was, and it was close to being exactly that, but it didn't get the votes.
And I think now we have some data and stuff to back up the fact that we are at maximum
Yeah.
capacity and every program is growing and it's only gonna continue to be an issue. So take a look at that report and we'll revisit that again next month.
That's in the SharePoint.
It's in the SharePoint. I believe there's a field census folder
Yeah.
now that David
Yes.
put it into.
Thank you for posting that.
Thank
I've
you,
been
yeah.
meaning to get to look at it.
Yeah, now
Now we have a homework
Now, I was gonna say,
assignment.
now everybody has homework, so, and hopefully the next time the pickleball discussion will be pretty short, and we'll hear back from what the gentleman says, and we can make recommendations, and then we can move on with the meeting and not make everything take, hopefully keep it shorter.
If I can find the general access plan and the field one, I'll dump it in that folder.
That'd be great, yeah, I have a drawing somewhere, and again, this, a teeny tiny picture of it is in the PowerPoint presentation, so you can at least sort of see like rectangles and diamonds, but there's so many things you could do with that space.
Did we do aerial imaging of that?
We do not,
We want one.
we could, if they don't have one yet.
Yeah, David, do you know if you have accurate
Aerial.
aerial image of that?
I mean, I'm sure we have plans somewhere. of the
You want an
park,
updated image, let it, we can do that.
And I don't think we'd say no to that.
Yeah, we have it for the other fields, but we
Yeah.
did not do that.
That's fine.
Okay, we'll move on then to new business. Is there any other, let's start with consideration of an arboretum subcommittee.
The, something I wanted to throw on here, just so we don't lose it, there's past Parks boards had put an effort and got Mount Lebanon and a level 1 accreditation arboretum. So what that means is we have 50+ different species of trees that are cataloged. The members actually went out there and marked them on GPS. If you go on the Public Works website, under Parks, there's an arboretum tab there. You can zoom in, see what that tree is, how big it is, how long it's been there. It's pretty neat. And that all this work was done by those past board members, and our IT obviously supports the back end of it. So with that, yearly, to keep that status, you have to do at least one educational event. And any additional mapping or planting to grow your species always helps. I think the next level up, I forget how many more or how many different species you'd have to add on to grab that next level, but obviously this is our first year. We got a lot of gears spinning here, so there is one past board member, Elaine Kramer, who also would like to join this to help out. You can have residents on subcommittees as well. So I just wanted to throw this out here because if we don't act on it, and by educational event, the last couple we piggybacked with Conservancy. We did one with the library. It's not just throwing your name on it. You know, people go out there and help. They do tours. It's pretty neat. They've all been very successful events. We did learn not to put them on Steeler Sundays, which helped. It's that learning thing we like to
Sure.
try and do here.
So you said that has to be renewed every year. What's the timing on that? Like, are we starting the year like when? What's like the calendar?
It's more just to check in with the admin from the site
Okay.
that I handle, so we're not asking you to do any of the back end stuff.
Okay.
You know, with anything that keeps that accreditation, it's more or less helping to volunteer, make sure you get an event planned out. It can be something simple, or it can be, you know, something grand. You can tag along with Earth Day. I know, you know, we're past all that stuff now, but those are simple things to jump on. And keep this, because it's pretty neat, the mapping that's on there, and to know that, I mean, that's not even like a third of like what we have out there, so. Just, that's part of this board's duties, is to keep that going, so I think a subcommittee might be the best route.
Do we have to do an event before December 31st this year?
Yes.
Yep. In the fall.
Are there members here that are interested in being on that subcommittee?
I'll do it.
Is there a specific number we need for a subcommittee? Rules.
Well, it just has to be less than a quorum.
Less than a quorum.
So we have, did I miss anybody else? We could do those two, plus you mentioned a name of a resident.
Yes, and I can do that intro email to pull everyone together and kind of get it moving, and do that.
Well, I know Elaine.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So does somebody want to make a motion to have Natalie, Andrew, and Elaine be part of the Arboretum subcommittee?
So moved.
A second,
Second.
right over the second. And then,
Either way, it's passed.
yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we will do a subcommittee. Any other new business?
I have one, Amanda, when the sports and the parks boards merged, David, we were working on the naming project, the field project, the current document that's used, which is the naming criteria for municipal facilities, was drafted on October 28th, 2015. I'd like to recommend that that document be reviewed and updated as we do the signage. There is one filed, completed application for one of the fields that was postponed because of the merger of the two groups. And the way it's written, there are requirements from an advisory board to submit it. So is that a document that we can look at and update to make sure that it's in compliance with the current formation of this group?
You mean like change, does it specifically say parks or sports board
It's a
or
sports,
something?
it said that there's a requirement of a letter from the sports board to.
So just update the language to reflect.
The new
what-
board.
Correct, and
Yeah,
once that's done, we can.
I can bring that to the manager, sure.
And we've had two other inquiries that have been directed to me as well, and I've just kind of said, hey, we're working on the signage. And I think the other thing, Phil, we could do as well is in that document, incorporate the specifications or refer to whatever the
Right.
reference point, when these are the approved specifications for signage of these surfaces. So it's coming up on 10 years old, probably worth looking at.
All right, any other new business? Does anyone, the only thing I would offer is the pool. Does anyone want to have any discussion about the comments we heard tonight?
But, you know, certainly I think we want to continue hearing about the issues, and I would, be curious to know, like,
Is the frequently asked questions document you mentioned, is that on just the general website?
Is also on the website, yes. It was sent out in our newsletter and posted to the website.
Because I need to look at that.
And, you know, we state that we'll update it as more information becomes available. So it's a living document. We'll keep people informed. You know, the discussion is really, leaning towards filter replacement in the off season. So, and there's some other discussion about limiting attendance to help, you know, give the filter some relief. And we've implemented some things just since this has become a problem internally that we're, you know, working on to try to alleviate the problems, but I'll report on that on July.
Dave, is there any value for us having a subcommittee get involved? Do you think the information that's being shared and brought to the attention to you and the commissioners is adequate, or do you think it would warrant a small group of this?
I think with the amount of exposure this has and the amount of, you know, staff focus on this, I don't think it would be helpful. We're going to, you know, we're going to work on this till the problem is corrected. So I don't know that, you know, unless someone in this group is a pole design professional or, you know, engineer for filtration systems, I mean, I don't see any benefit to that.
Was the lap of things discussed, were those rules changed? The lap lane, like the instruction in a lap lane, was that changed?
No, the rules regarding lap lanes have been the same for about 10 years at least. I'd have to go back into my handbook to see how long, you know, when that was first introduced. But at least 9 years, at least.
But there's no recent change to whether what I don't know the detail, whether we're following whether we weren't following what was written 10 years ago today, or we are. Can you confirm if was there a recent change
Yeah.
There's
on policy around?
There's definitely been some issues with enforcement, but the language has always been the same.
And is the language allow instruction or not?
It does not.
Is there a reason why there's so many lanes then? I haven't been to the pool, so
I mean,
But we don't need any outside comments, thank you, though.
it's 7, not 8.
There's
but,
a, I have a picture if you'd like to see it.
It's 7, not 8, but you know, we can consider removing if there's too many, but.
Are they used? I mean, I guess that would be a question for the people.
Well,
who are
and,
there.
and you know, that's a good question. I think we need to allow some time to see how well they're used because the staff was not enforcing it properly until now. So I think we need to give that some time to see how that develops. You know, we'll adjust as needed. I mean, that's something that we need a little bit of time to observe.
And I have one more question. Does the municipality do anything with swim lessons like the Red Cross does swim lessons? Do they come into the pool and do anything, or is it all done by the whatever? Lebanon?
Lebanon Aqua Club. So the rec department at one time ran swim lessons. We have outsourced that to the Aqua Club.
Okay.
They provide lessons throughout the summer. So that's really the venue for swim lessons. I can't speak to their capacity,
Okay, I
but
just wanted to make sure they were the only
that's
people
when
doing swim
lessons happen.
lessons. Okay.
I admittedly don't know exactly what's going on with the pool, but I'm hearing more about it. People are asking me about it. I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but things break, things get old. Was there something that happened? Like, did an event happen? I mean, things wear out.
Sure. So I think in the sense that you're asking, it's not like something is broken
Okay.
and won't work. It's more undersized.
Okay.
We did have an event where someone backwashed incorrectly the first weekend we were open, which did cause us to be closed and caused some ongoing issues with cloudy water. But you know, nothing's broken.
Okay.
So that's really not the issue.
Somebody mentioned refunds. If they're not able to get refunds for this year, they should certainly roll that up over to next year. That would be my recommendation.
I mean, we're talking about that with the commission. That'll be part of the July 23rd discussion. You know, day pass holders get rain checks, not refunds, rain checks. That they can use at another time. So ordinarily, we wouldn't refund like a pass holder for a rainy day. But this is obviously, you know, something different. So we are talking about ways to compensate our members. That's something that's on the table.
I'll just kind of input just from
Yeah.
being in the industry. This year has been a challenge for everyone with water quality. It's hotter, less clouds, and higher bather load every single day for the last 45 days.
Does bather load mean like the number
How
of
many
people in the
people?
pool?
Mhm. That all affects your chlorine, that all affects your water quality. I would say that everyone in the county is experiencing some level of this. So just for input.
That's a good perspective to have, that it's not just us.
Well, I think the hot streaks that we've experienced, I think are unprecedented. I don't know that we've ever seen
No.
90-degree temperatures day after day after day, the way we have this year.
We're, just for reference, we're around 40,000 people higher than any year in the last 10 years for the county. Operate all 4 county pools. So it's very busy. It's a lot of
So the
people.
heat not only impact, it's just more people are coming to swim, plus the heat itself.
Not only just the heat, lack of clouds, direct sunlight evaporates chlorine quicker, affects the water quality. So we're going through, I mean, every system's different. Our systems are very different than what David's dealing with. But I talked to other people, all the pool people talk to each other. We're all experiencing a lot of the same stuff. We instituted the chaperone policy. I've talked to the city pools. And you just talk to them, so.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through the same thing. Again, I'm not saying we don't backwash, so it's a different system, but.
Well, I will look forward to an update. We will not do anything with the subcommittee, but look forward to an update next month on the progress of trying to fix the issues. And anybody else who's listening to the call or was here today is welcome, like we mentioned, to listen to the discussion. It's not a chance to speak, but it is a chance to listen to the commissioner's discussion and David's report to them at that time. And then you are allowed to speak at the meeting, the following meeting, there at the commissioner's meeting itself. So that's another outlet for you to consider. Any other new business? Good. Okay, then now, we're gonna announce the next meeting. We were able to move the start time back to 7 PM. And it'll be Wednesday, August 21st. And obviously you all have access via Zoom as well. David will send out an email to you, and we're gonna all click the link to the form.
Okay, thank you.
Instead of emailing you like we have for 3 years, we're gonna get used to the form and we're gonna fill it out. All the new people probably don't understand that. You just click the form and RSVP. We used to just email to him. So we're still learning, David. We're gonna get there. All right, and I think that's it. So we're ready to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second,
Second.
all in favor of adjourning? We're done at 8:15 then. Not bad.